This video is all about reading books, which you probably already know how to do, but the question is, have you been doing it wrong all along? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video, so stick around. This is a book. I'm sure you've seen one before, you may have even read one. But if you're like me and you like to read nonfiction books to learn something new and to get more knowledge, then there are certain things that you can do to get more out of the books that you read. And so this video is all about some of the things that I have found to be super effective in processing what I'm reading, to acquire more knowledge, and basically to remember more of the stuff that I read. If you found a specific method or technique that you found to be especially effective when you're reading books that helps you remember the stuff that you read, then please share it in the comments below this video. And as always, if you like what you see, then go ahead and click that like button. Alright, so the tips in this video are mainly helpful if you're reading nonfiction books. And by that I mean, books that you're reading because you're interested in a certain topic or you are learning something. So it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense if you're reading, Harry Potter. My tips in this video are really for people that are reading a book because they want to learn something new and are looking to retain the knowledge and maybe somehow apply it to their job or everyday life. Alright, let's get to it. So my first tip is actually something that starts before you even pick up the book and start reading it. Tip number one for more efficient reading is to think about why you're reading the book. Something that I usually do is to think about what I'm trying to learn with the specific book that I'm considering reading. What are some of the things that I'd like to get out of it? If it's about a topic related to my everyday life and work, I think about how I intend to apply it. And so I kind of just overall consider the purpose of me reading this book. So I try to do this from time to time when I am trying to find a new book that I want to read. I kind of think about what knowledge or skill or topic I'd like to know something more about. And then I find a book that will help me get that knowledge. And I feel like when I do that before I even find the book, it helps me find a book that's appropriate for me. And also as I'm reading the book, if I've thought about how I want to apply the things that I'll learn by reading the book, I am actively looking for those things as I'm reading the book. It helps me pick out the right parts or the right, methods or techniques that I'm reading about that I plan to use once I'm done reading the book. And that's just super helpful and motivating, and it's something that you should definitely consider trying to do the next time you are thinking about what your next book should be. Of course, sometimes it's nice to just pick up a book and reading it because it looks interesting or because it's about a topic that you've found interesting somehow. So I don't recommend doing this every time, but making these considerations before picking a book has definitely helped me get more out of the books that I've read. Alright, on to tip number two, which is kind of a backwards one. And that is when I've found a book that I want to read, I usually start by reading the conclusion first. I know what you're thinking, why would you ever do that? You're ruining the ending. But like I said in the beginning of this video, obviously you should only do this if this is a nonfiction book. If you're reading an M. Night Shyamalan kind of book, then I don't recommend doing that. That would probably ruin the entire experience. But if you're reading a book to learn something, then I find that by reading the conclusion first, I kind of get the core of what the author is trying to say. Usually books have, the most important parts in the conclusion, which is kind of a summary of the most important things in the book. And you've basically got the key concept boiled down to something like a short chapter that just sums up the entire thing. Overall, I think this is a super helpful thing to do because by reading the conclusion first, you kind of know what the author is trying to get at throughout the entire book. So you won't be waiting for a conclusion at the end of the book. You'll know it beforehand, and so you can focus on pulling out the best parts of the book as you're reading it. And also, it can be a helpful thing to do if you haven't decided entirely if this is a book that you want to read all the way through. If you read the conclusion first, then you know the main points of the book, and that can make it easier to assess whether or not it's worth it to read the entire book. Definitely something I think you should try next time you are picking up a nonfiction book to read. Just remember, don't do that with fiction books. That would be bad. My third tip for you is to actively process what you're learning. The main reason why I read nonfiction books is because I want to learn something new, I want to get new knowledge, and I want to make sure that I retain it so that I can use that in the future. And a thing that can be challenging when you're reading an entire book is to make sure that you actually remember the stuff that you read. And so one of the things that I've found especially helpful is to be actively reading and processing what you learn. This can be done in the form of taking notes or highlighting parts of your book, underlining stuff. But the most important thing is that you take some time as you read through the book to stop and just kind of consider what you're actually reading. Take some breaks in between your readings and just try to think about what you just read. Try to pick out the core concepts and ideas or methods, all the parts that you found the most useful. What I usually do is to take notes in a little notebook. I try to write down the most interesting things that I've read, and I write them down in my own words as if I was explaining it to someone else. By doing this, I am forced to really think about what it is that I'm reading, and putting it down in my own words is a great way for me to, help retain that knowledge. And also, once I'm done reading the book and I've been taking notes throughout, at the end of it, I'll have a mini summary written by myself for my future self, which is super handy to have to go back to if I want to try to remember some of the most important parts of the book and just use for reference. So I definitely encourage you to try out some of the different methods for actively processing the stuff you're reading. Take notes, use a highlighter, put in bookmarks or stickers or post-its into the book, whatever helps you identify the most important parts of the book and to process what you're reading to help you retain it better. Tip number 4, immerse yourself in the topic. So something that I usually do when I start reading a new book is to do a bit of research on the author or the book or just the overall topic online. What I'm looking for is other kinds of materials that I can learn from on the side while I'm reading the book. Well, that could be something like news articles, reviews, or discussions that other people have had about the book. Or if you're reading a recent book, then usually the author has done interviews on different podcasts or radio shows that are very often accessible for free online. And I just feel like it really helps me immerse myself into the book even more when I can, read articles, I can listen to podcasts, I can kind of surround myself with all of this knowledge so that I can constantly get, input about the book that I'm reading from different sources. It usually gives me different perspectives on the topic or on the book, either from the author himself in an interview that he's given, or a review by someone who's read the book, or just someone that has been discussing the book online. So give it a try next time you are starting to read a book. Google the name of the author or the book and just see what kind of resources pop up that you can learn from while you're reading the book. My 5th and final tip for getting more out of the books that you read is to stop reading it. Wait, what? Was that right? Alright, that one sounds kind of odd, but hear me out. I've often felt that if I started reading a book, then I had to finish it. And it's kind of silly because it does happen from time to time that you pick up a book and start reading it and it doesn't really live up to your expectations. And so I'm here to say that if that is the case, then you are allowed to stop reading it. Don't feel like you are forced to finish it if you don't like it. I feel like that is just a huge waste of time. I feel like it's totally fine to just stop and find another book to read. I have done that several times now where either the book just wasn't what I had expected, or I just didn't feel like I was getting enough out of it, or it just wasn't the right time for me to read the book. There can be a lot of reasons why you are not enjoying what you're reading, and in that case, I feel like you should just stop reading it and find something else to read. There is definitely no shame in that, and so the next time you find yourself not enjoying a book at all, stop reading it. Alright everybody, those were my 5 tips for getting more out of the books that you read. I hope that these were helpful to you, and I really hope that they get you reading more books and, getting that knowledge to stick. If you have a tip that you'd like to share, then please do so in the comments below this video. I would love to hear what your techniques are for getting more out of the books that you're reading, so do share. And if you want to see more videos like this one about productivity, about books, and about design, then definitely subscribe to my channel. And be sure to check out my Instagram as well, where I share stuff from my daily life as a designer and obviously the books that I am reading and currently enjoying. All right, that's it for now. I think I'll get back to reading this guy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.